And I'm about to go off on a tirade for a few moments, folks. So get ready. Because when I was hearing people call for gun control legislation and the banning of certain firearms and all these more aggressive background checks for people to get, you know, guns and weaponry so that they can defend themselves and defend their freedoms against the encroachment of tyranny, and to prepare for the time when that may be necessary, I was willing to kind of look the other way and almost excuse this. They're ignorant people. Some of them are knowingly doing this, so I know that they're part of the agenda, as many people in the military, I'm sorry, in the media are, and are on the CIA payroll, and will just, basically say anything that they're told to say, commanded to say for a paycheck because they're an automaton robot. But I heard something through, I'm not going to mention the person's name, let's just say it is a friend who happens to occasionally listen to a radio talk show host's show in the United States. And this is where I'm going to go off on a short tirade here and basically call this person out as a coward and a traitor. And his name is Howard Stern. For people who may not be familiar with who this is, who may live outside of the United States, people in the United States probably recognize the name. But if you're from another country and you're listening to the show, this guy is a radio talk show host, a very popular radio talk show host from New York. And he basically engages in toilet humor and just sophomoric, juvenile shows that he puts on. He doesn't really ever talk about anything with any real substance, for the main fact that he is a coward. And, he just wants to talk about all frivolous topic matter and never really get into anything with substance. And he was calling, well, I don't listen to mainstream media and even shows on serious radio that don't really get into anything serious. I listen to basically alternative media and filter the web for what I'm looking for relevant pieces of information and information that's really getting at the truth about what's really taking place. And of course, do real reading, downloading books and things like that to improve my understanding of the dynamic that's taking place around us. When you encounter an individual like this who really doesn't read, by his own admission, and I encountered it again through a friend who happened to have it on. And when I was listening, I was becoming totally infuriated by the ignorance of this individual. He was calling for a ban on semi-automatic and automatic weapons because of the tragic events that took place in Aurora. And this is the typical fearful, mind-controlled, ignoramus response to an event like this by someone who has absolutely no idea what freedom is. Zero. And who's a little timid lapdog. He's a little timid slave. This person is not, and you can say I'm launching an ad hominem attack because that's what it is. Get over it. Yeah, that's what it is. It's an ad hominem attack. I'm attacking a complete idiot who happens to have the ears of millions of people in the United States and doesn't use that with any responsibility at all, is then putting out things that are completely poisoning other people's worldview when it comes to an understanding of what these weapons even exist in the world for, what they're even for. Because people have no idea. Most people have zero idea of what the Second Amendment is even about, what that entire idea, the concept, was put there by the founders of this nation for. And it has nothing to do with hunting. It doesn't even really have to do with just the base protection of your home from predators within the population, thieves, vandals, things like that. That's really not what it's about. The Second Amendment is there to act as a guarantee of protection on the people against the government, so that you have the ability to defend yourself against encroaching tyranny and the usurpation of your natural law rights, your natural inherent rights as a human being. That's what it's there for. That's the original intent of the people who put that into effect, put that out into the world. Whether you agree with the Constitution, Bill of Rights, anything or not, the idea is that when someone is coming at you with violence, you have the right to protect yourself through the use of force. And he was making these completely irrational, illogical, cowardly, fearful claims and saying these weapons should be banned. And his rationale for this is that they're not designed for hunting. They're designed for the killing of multiple numbers of people. And I was sitting there listening to this verbal diarrhea and thinking to myself, wow, genius. You must have won an award or something. Rocket scientist, brain surgeon. Were you sitting up for days at a time with an abacus and a slide rule to figure that out? That these weapons exist for the killing of multiple people? Not just one, but numbers of people? Well, you figured it out. Mental giant. Congratulations. Yes, that's what they're for. Because they're for protecting oneself from government agents that have gone completely outside of their scope, outside of their originally intended scope, and are now engaged in the practice of tyranny. That's what they're for. And if you ever did any reading, Coward, because that's what his name should be. It shouldn't be Howard, it should be Coward Stern. Okay? If you ever cracked open a book in your life, you would understand that every single time throughout history that any kind of mass confiscation or banning of weapons has taken place, it has always, inevitably, invariably been followed by a mass extermination of the population in the region in which that confiscation was done. But you don't have a long view of history. You don't have any view of history because you don't read books. You're not a reader, and that's why you're not a real thinker. You're just an opinion propagator, and an uninformed opinion propagator at that. So yeah, I am calling you a coward. I am calling you an ignoramus. And ultimately, I'm calling you somebody who's really been castrated by the state. You don't have any balls to come out and speak the truth. You're not even a man. You're a coward. So there's my ad hominem tirade against a person who has millions of people's ears, yet doesn't have one drop of responsibility to understand, have any long view of history, to understand the original intent of the founders of this nation. What Howard Stern is, what Coward Stern is, ultimately is a traitor. A traitor.